My name is Pennie Opal Plant. I'm one of the co-founder grandmothers of Idle No More SF Bay. Idle No More SF Bay was inspired to be created in March of 2013 from our sisters and brothers, mostly sisters, up in Canada, our First Nations relatives, who rose up against the horrible legislation that the Harper administration was trying to push through to violate Indigenous rights and the land. And at this point, I think that our Idle No More group is probably the most active group in the United States. So what's happening here in the Bay Area is really exciting. And I've been to the UN climate talks. I was in Paris in 2016? 2015? 2015? Thank you, Ryan. See, we all have to share a brain when you get older. And I want to just set the stage for what happens at the UN climate talks, because what Jerry Brown started with was a small climate summit, right? It has grown to be an international climate summit with UN representatives here, with world leaders here, with previous climate negotiators who were at other COPs. And so I want to give you a taste of what being at one of these COPs is like, because this is what we're going to have in our own backyard. There will be people coming in from all parts of the world. There will be not only what's happening at Moscone Center, but all of the big like environmental and animal rights groups and all these other big NGOs are also all going to be in town. And a lot of them are going to have different events that they're doing all through the Bay Area, because San Francisco isn't going to be big enough to hold everyone. So you can expect that there will be things happening in Oakland, in Marin County, and other places. So that's one thing. The other thing that happens is that people like us from around the world will be here. There will be activists from the Amazon, from Europe, from Canada, from everywhere coming to our home. And so one of the things that I'm imagining happening is a menu of options, which is going to be a really interesting thing to try to put together, because there's going to be so many of us here. The whole world is going to be here in our backyard. So if anybody wants to help me work on that, like contacting the groups that we feel like we're in alignment with, who are standing for clean air, clean water, clean soil, and a healthy and vibrant future for our relatives in perpetuity, come talk to me, because we're going to need help putting all of this together. So that's one ask. The next thing is that there are 2 tracks that Idle No More is part of around the climate summit. Do you remember in 2014 there was that huge climate march in New York? There was actually closer to 650,000 people there. That's what the police scanners were saying. And that's coming here. So the People's Climate March Coalition, which is a national coalition of a lot of different groups that are in alignment, mostly around climate, they contacted all the groups, a lot of the groups here in the Bay Area, including Idle No More. And so that's the group that's organizing the California, and it's more than likely going to be a march on September 8th. So you want to make sure that that is on your calendar, because it's going to be fabulous. There will be people here from everywhere, and we're their hosts and hostesses, right? And so that's one really big thing that's going to be happening. We don't have a lot of details about that yet, but everyone's invited. So Idle No More is part of the leadership committee organizing this, as well as Poder and APEN, and I always leave people off, other organizations off, and we're adding more folks. So it's built with primarily people of color, primarily grassroots folks like ourselves. And we're going to need probably over 1,000 people who volunteer to be monitors. We're going to, invite people to step up to make amazing art. There's going to be so many opportunities for everybody to participate. And then there's the awesome march, right? So we can all bring our messaging from our organizations of what it is that we stand for. So that's one huge thing that's going to be happening. Now the other huge thing that's going to be happening aside from Jerry Brown's Climate Summit, is the It Takes Roots Coalition, which is a coalition of frontline community groups, primarily people of color, from across the United States that work on these kinds of issues. And I Don't Know More is a member of It Takes Roots. So It Takes Roots is looking at, so the art build, the march is on September 8th. September 9th, there's going to be some toxic tours more than likely. So none of this is set in stone yet, right? So there's still opportunity to mold and get ideas and see what people are really excited to do. So the 9th will be more art, like building a lot of art, because we need to build it for over 50,000 people at least. That's the goal, is 50,000. My heart tells me that it's going to be way more than 50,000, because 2018 is a completely different year than even last year for the big march in DC. And it's definitely like eons away from 2014. In 2014, we weren't dealing with the things that we have to deal with. States weren't on fire. There wasn't huge droughts. There was this one that was starting. There wasn't the killer everything weather that's been going on over the last few years. So I think that we're going to have a lot more people than 50,000 people here. What do you think? Yes. Think we got that? Yeah, okay, me too. So the 9th is art build, toxic tours, and I don't know what else. The 10th is a big It Takes Roots meeting for members, which is like 600 people coming in from all across the country. The 11th is probably my favorite thing that's going to be happening this week, and that is a conference about solutions from our communities, from the grassroots, because we have the solutions. The solutions, as we know, are not going to come from the top. So that's what this conference is going to be about, like renewable energies on reservations, the tiny house movement, like, you know, Kanahus Manuel up in British Columbia, you know, she's doing this whole thing with tiny houses stopping the Kinder Morgan pipeline. I mean, so much creativity in our groups around the world. So that's where am I at? That's the 11th. The 12th, 13th, and 14th is when Jerry Brown's Climate Summit starts. So there's some interesting steps that a lot of groups are taking between now and then around the governor that's on his way out. So both Daniel and I, Daniel Rejan, Daniel's with I Don't Know More, we both called out Jerry Brown at different climate summits over the last few years because of his cap and trade and carbon trading schemes. It's like this little shell game, right? So what my concern, and the concern of a lot of other people, is that he's going to use this as a leaping board into promoting that more heavily around the world. And we don't want that, right? Does everybody get that? We don't want that. If you think that that's a good idea, you should, I'll give you my phone number and we'll have a conversation. A nice civil conversation, I promise. So we have this opportunity between now and then to help him align what he says and what he does, which right now they're like universes apart. They're not even close. And I don't know if he realizes that or not, but there are hundreds, 800, that have signed this awesome letter. It's an amazing, very solid letter explaining to him that, you know, we really want him to be a climate leader. We want him to be a hero. We want him to do the right thing. And so we have this opportunity over the next several months to help him do the right thing. How I Don't Know More functions is we don't have a human enemy. Our enemies are the thought forms that created separation, colonization, and capitalism. So it leaves us with the ability to talk to anybody, because nobody's our enemy. And then during this climate summit, things are going to get really creative. And that's where everybody can get really creative. how many of you have seen those big street paintings that Idle No More, with David's help and a lot of other folks' help, did in front of Wells Fargo, the Thunderbird woman? So imagine that, like on estrogen all over the city, right? Like, you know, when a woman's really feeling that, it's big. So imagine that, like really big, beautiful paintings with the powerful messages that all of these people going into that summit will have to see, because it's beautiful. And then they'll go, oh, these people, they don't want us to put money on the forest. They don't want us to count every single tree and put a dollar sign on it. Oh, well, you know, maybe we should think about that. I wonder if they might be right. I mean, I'm just imagining, right? That's what, in my imagination, that's how things work in the world. So that, and then we'll have lots of arrestivals, right? Lots of arrestivals. So I've been arrested many times in my life, and it's always powerful. It's really powerful. It's a very powerful thing to make that commitment. And so I invite all of you to go through your nonviolent direct action training. How many of you need to do that in this room? Right, so there'll be lots of that happening really soon. Got it? And if you want to be a supporter and not risk arrest, then that's an equally important job. Because we all those of us being arrested, we all need to be tracked. We need you to know where we are so that you can come and get us when we get processed from wherever that is. We need people. One time I was in Santa Rita for like a week or two. That was when there was 1,000 people arrested together out at Livermore Lab. It was a long time ago. Probably most of you weren't born then. But so we needed people to call our jobs, to take care of our kids or our animals or water our gardens, you know, whatever. So that support role is equally as important. And to find out about that, I invite you, with deep from my heart, that means you have to go to a nonviolent direct action training. And I think that covers it.
Thank you, Pennie.